So welcome everyone to Professional Perspectives. And today we have our very first guest, our inspiration. We want to call her more than just a professional. Tiffany, do you pronounce your last name Deighton? I've been meaning to ask you that for a long time. Okay.
Yes, Deighton.
That would be my guess. All right, good. And we decided to start with her because of that entrepreneurial spirit that she has. She is a professional business English coach, but she has a very special niche that we're going to be talking about. But in addition to her work, she is a wife and mother. She's a homeschool mom. And she will have her tell you how many children she homeschools in just a little while. But I just think it's a really interesting journey that she has had. And so that's how we're going to start this interview, because we want to start with our questions. And I'm going to ask Anita to please ask the first question.
Thank you. So the first thing actually is, how did you develop a passion for this field?
Okay, I actually have, I have loved language my entire life, and I was able to travel through really my 9th grade year, my freshman year in high school, all the way through high school and college, several different trips to Latin America. And so on one of those trips, I actually saw a bilingual school for the first time. That's not something we have in the United States, and it never occurred to me that other countries have those. And when I saw, I wanted to teach English in a bilingual school in Mexico. And when I came back from one of those trips, the next year, the university that I was planning to go to added a new degree program in teaching English as a second language. And so that was just really a confirmation for me that this was exactly the field that I needed to go into. And so, so at that point, I jumped into that program and learned how to teach English, not just to native speakers, but to non-native speakers. And I never did make it the interview.
So one more question actually to follow through from this. How different is it to teach English language to native speakers versus non-native speakers?
Kind of depends at the level of your non-native speaker. To take a brand new beginner and to teach them their vocabulary words and different verb forms and different things like that, that's very different from teaching a native speaker. By the upper intermediate level, the advanced level of English, there are some differences, but not a lot. As you focus on the finer grammar points, you may focus on writing or giving a presentation or different things like that. That's really where I'm focused right now in my business, rather than on those beginning steps of learning cat, dog, mom, dad, things like that.
And did you ever teach at a bilingual school?
I never have.
We have several in Georgia. When I got my master's degree in TESOL in world language education at the University of Georgia, and one of my group projects was on bilingual schools. So there are several there. If you ever need to visit them, they are fascinating. Fascinating.
Very cool.
So
Very
after
cool.
you got your, what kind of a degree or certificate did you need to get in order to teach English as a second language?
Well, it depends on where you'd like to teach it.
No,
there are different degrees or licenses or whatever, depending on, like, if you're teaching at a university level, at a high school, an elementary school, different things. And depending on the country around the world, different countries require different things. For my entrepreneurial business, I actually don't have to have any licenses, any education at all. I can just teach whatever I want. I do have my degree, a bachelor's in teaching English as a second language, and I do have a license that I recently got from Premier TEFL in Cambridge, UK. So I do have those, but actually for my job, I don't have to have them. And I know several other entrepreneurs that don't have any licensure. So like I said, it depends on whether, if I'm doing my own thing, I answer to myself. If I'm working for a company or an institution, then it's whatever they require.
Well, so how long have you been teaching English as a second language?
Off and on for over 20 years. I graduated from college in 1999. My kids like to tease me that that was the last century. And yes, I did go to school in the last century, but so I started then. I had a class that I taught for a little while of intermediate level learners, and then I did a lot of tutoring as I started staying home with my kids. I've also taught Spanish 1 and 2 for high school level, and I've also taught high school English and tutored in all of them. So I've done a little bit throughout the years.
Consider yourself bilingual?
Yes, I would.
That's great.
My journey with Spanish has taken me a little bit longer, and I've got a whole bunch of posts for LinkedIn started but not finished right now, that kind of talk a little bit more about my journey with language learning, and some of my philosophy that I've developed from that. So it took me a little bit longer, but actually living in a Spanish speaking country for 3.5 years is kind of what pushed me over the level that I feel comfortable in the language now, rather than just trying to remember verb conjugations as they come to me.
Well, so you talked about how you fell in love with this idea. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey, your children? I mean, maybe a little bit of chronological. We're all curious, as much as you want to share anyway.
Sure. Okay. My journey has not been just a straight line at all. We have done all kinds of things. I married my husband just 2 weeks after I graduated from college. So we've been married for 23 years. And we were blessed with our first child just a year later. And so the first of 6, he just turned 22 last month. And when he was small, I decided, I was teaching Spanish full time at the time, and decided to stay home with him. And so that was a change. That was a lot different from both of us working. My husband is also a teacher. So we were teaching full time, and of course, grading papers and lesson planning and all of that at night, to me staying home full time. And that actually ended up causing my husband to change his career at the time as well. And then we had another child. Then we moved across the country. So about 5,000 kilometers or so away from my parents and our support network. And so we moved out there, out to the west. We had been living in the east of the country, moved all the way out to the west, stayed there for 3.5 years. My husband worked as a financial analyst out there rather than a teacher. And we were there. He lost his job. We came home. I guess in the meantime, we had a third child out west. So took 2 of them, brought 3 of them home, and moved back into the same area that we were before. And we stayed there for a number of years. My husband went back to teaching. He went actually into administration for several years. And it was in 2013, I guess, that we took, just for fun, a family in the country, and decided we could actually do this. And we would actually really enjoy the traveling aspect of it.